Hi friends, Naji here. Welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video, we will be discussing on image generation by giving a input prompt. For that, we will be using AWS Bedrock and we will be using Stability AI, Lambda, API Gateway, and we will be using the Python and Boto 3 packages, and we will be developing Visual Studio Code. In my last video in this playlist, I have explained how can we create a image using AWS Bedrock and Stability AI, and in that application we developed that as a console applications. So we are actually extending that application to a cloud based application using Lambda and API Gateway, so it will be scalable. Okay. So objective, I have already explained that we will be generate an image from input prompt. So this is the high level architecture that we are going to implement. So here we can see a user will be there, a user will be giving some input prompt. So prompt will be running dog or running cat or anything that need to be that the client want to generate the image, and that will go to the API gateway, and API gateway will trigger a event to Lambda functions. Okay, so Lambda functions, we will be adding some inference parameters to AWS Bedrock. Then AWS Bedrock will be triggering a Stability AI. Okay, so we will be using Stability AI to generate the images from input prompt. So once the image is received, we will be pushing that into AWS S3 bucket. Okay, so we will be keeping this AWS S3 bucket as a private one. Okay, so if you directly share the URL to the customer or the client application will not able to see that. So what we will be doing, we will be creating a pre-signed URL so that URL can be available for some time. Okay, and that will be returned back to the user. So user can be called, using that pre-signed URL, it will be directly able to call this S3 bucket and will able to generate the URL. Okay, so this is what we are going to implement. Okay. So anybody who is interested can listen to this video. So something that we need to remember. Okay, so to do along with me, I prefer the Python knowledge, and should have the developer should have a AWS account, and Bedrock permissions, IAM user creations, and VS Code with AWS CLI, and basic Lambda knowledge and API gateway knowledge. Okay. So here when we do the programming, so I will be skipping few things like IAM user creation and how can we integrate AWS CLI with the Visual Studio Code and the basic details about the Lambda. So all those things will be skipped because I want to make this video in like 20 to 25 minutes. So I have already done few training videos for all those things, so I will be sharing that in my description. Okay, and we will be following two methods. One is we will be developing this application using Visual Studio Code, and we will be making use of AWS CLI tools. And another way is we will be directly going to the AWS console application and we will be implementing through AWS console application. So without writing the code in the Visual Studio Code. Okay. So that is the initial introduction. Now we can start developing the code. So here I have my Visual Studio Code. So my AWS CLI is already installed there. So we can start writing the code. First let me go to the menu. Then I am going to develop that in a Python 3.11, and we'll be using AWS SAM, and this is our project. So we are going to give a name, can call it as image generation. Okay, so this is the folder name which seems to be here. Okay, and these are the hello world app.py and test everything, right? So this is all, this also like we have discussed in my previous videos. Okay, so we can directly go to the template.yaml file. Here we can just rename the things. Okay, so for that let me copy this hello world, not in files, sorry. Let me replace this hello world to what need to be the image generation. Okay, I'm just renaming this. Let me rename. Okay, so renaming is done. So because like by default it is saying hello world. Now we need to change one more thing. Here I need to change hello world to image generation. Fine. Here also I can give image generation, image underscore generation. So that is also done. Now, so here we have a API gateway. So instead of hello, I can just put a image. So this will be our path. Okay, so these are the few basic setup, and I have explained everything in detail in my previous playlist. Okay, so we are good here, and we can go to our app.py file. Okay, so this is our app.py file. Here everything seems to be good. Now what we can do our first push to the AWS Lambda, so that we can ensure that everything is ready. Okay, so for that let me go to the image generation folder. Okay, so this is my image generation folder. Here I can write sam deploy -- guided -- profile. My profile name is, you can see my profile here, Mac demo. Okay, Mac demo. So image generation, everything is yes, 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 yes. Okay, so it's in progress. We can see now we can push to the AWS Lambda function. Fine. So we can have a quick look on our console. Okay, so this is our console. I'm going to AWS Lambda. Here I have already 2 Lambda functions are there. Let me see it is done or not. It is still in progress. Yep, so we are done with our deployment. Now let me go there, refresh here. So we can see that this is our image generation function. Okay, so everything is there. Now we can quickly go and test this. So here we can see the API gateway. So this is our API gateway. Let me copy this. We open this. So the message is hello world. So this seems to be working fine. Okay, so now we can start our real coding. So here first let me go to the requirement.text. Here I can import Boto3. I mean I can add Boto3. Okay. So let me quickly go back to our architecture. Okay, so here what we are going to do. So once we have the once the user is asked for the prompt, it will be hitting the AWS Lambda. From AWS Lambda, we will be calling the AWS Bedrock, and also we will be calling the S3 bucket. Okay, so so here this should be from AWS Lambda. Okay, And so in AWS Lambda, we have to create two client applications. I mean two client object. One is for S3 bucket and one is for AWS Bedrock. Okay. So for that, let me go here. First import. Boto3 can be imported here. Okay. So let me import few things. Base 64 can be imported, and we can import datetime also. So JSON is already imported. Here I can create a client for Bedrock. So for that we will be using boto3 dot client. The client name should be Bedrock. I mean client service name will be Bedrock runtime. Okay. Now I can create a client for S3 bucket. So this will be boto3 dot client S3. Okay. So we have our two clients are ready. One is for Bedrock and other one is for the S3 bucket. Okay. Now we will be getting a prompt as query parameters. So I can write it as, let me remove this. Let me write it as what I need to do. I need to fetch the query parameter. Okay. Fetch prompt from query parameters. Okay. So for that, what I can do, I can write a content. Okay. So for that event.get, I need to get the query string parameters. Okay. So this is the query string parameter. From that I can get the prompt. So here it will be not contact, it is content. From content my query parameter will be prompt. So we have our prompt ready. Okay. Now initialize the parameters here. For Bedrock. Okay. So this is the common for most of the Bedrock applications. One is accept. So we will be using application slash JSON. Then the second one is content type. So this also will be application slash JSON. Okay. Now we need to set the model ID. Okay. So model ID will be we can get the model ID. So for that I can go here and just check for Bedrock. So go to AWS Bedrock. And here okay, here we can see the stability AI. So here we will able to see model ID. Okay. So this is the model ID, and I have just copied the model ID here. Okay. Now we can define the body part. So for body part we will be using json.dumps. Here we can have a text prompt. Here I can mention the text. This text will be our prompt. Good. So once that is done, we can mention the CFG scale. So this is how close is our image with respect to the prompt. Okay. I'm not giving much parameters here. Okay. So this will be our body. Okay. So once we have the body, what we can do next, we can invoke the model. Okay. So for that we have a client Bedrock is there. I can invoke the model. Okay. Now I can pass the parameters here. I can pass the model ID as model ID. Now accept can be accept, and the content type can be have a content type. Okay. Now we can pass the body as body. Okay. So we will be getting a response from the Bedrock. Okay. So once we have that response, okay, we can get it as a bytes. Okay. So for that, what we can do, we can load the use the JSON loads. Okay, I can check the response bedrock dot. I can get the body from here. So this is my, I will be getting the stream data for that. So let me check everything is right. So this is the response bedrock, and from that I am getting body and I am reading that. Okay, now we can take the base 64 of it. Okay, I can take a response bytes. Okay, for that I can take the artifacts. From that I will be taking the base 64. Here I will be taking the base 64. Okay, now we need to encode to get the final image. I can encode it. For that I will be using base 64, b64 encode. No, we need to decode. So that is the, here I can use the bedrock base 64. Fine. So here we have the image, so I can make it as a final image to make it very clear. Okay, so we will be getting a final image. So once we have the image, we need to push this to a AWS S3 bucket. Okay, so let me go to that slide again. So here we are working on this part. Okay, from AWS Bedrock we call the Stability AI, then we got the image from the Stability AI. Now we need to push that into the S3 bucket. Okay, so one problem with S3 bucket is the image or what is the object there in the S3 bucket should have a unique name. Okay, so what we need to do, we need to create a unique name for this particular image. Okay, for that we will be make use of a datetime function from Python. Okay, for that what we can do, I can create a image name here. Okay, so for that genAI underscore image. Okay, this will be concatenated with our datetime function. Okay, this is the basic Python programming code. Here I can write say y, month, then day, and I can make the minute and the second. Okay, so now we have our image. Now maybe I can extend one more thing, plus dot, no, just avoid the extension. Okay, so this will be our image name. Okay, now we can push this into S3 bucket. So for that we can have a response from S3 bucket. So we already initialized the S3 bucket client. So there is a method called put object. Okay, so this put object we need to mention our bucket name. Okay, here we have to mention our bucket name, then we need to mention our body. Our body is the final image. Okay, now we need to mention the key. Key is the name of the image, so that is the image name. Okay, so we need to create a S3 bucket. For that we can go to the our console. Here I can just type into S3 bucket. Okay, you guys can see lot of S3 bucket in my account. Okay, so I'm going to use one of these S3 bucket. So you need to ensure that the region is same. Maybe I will be using this one, test nm. So I'm just copying this one. Okay, I don't want to create a new one. Okay, so that is a kind of a time consuming for this video. Okay, so if you have any questions, please put in the comment box, so I will try to reply that. Okay, so we have our S3 bucket is ready. I mean S3 bucket S3 bucket is ready, and we have written the code to push the image to S3 bucket. Okay. So once that is pushed, we need to create a signed URL. Okay. So for that, what we can do, there is a method called get generate pre-signed URL. Pre-signed URL, I believe the spelling is correct. Generate pre-signed URL, yeah, that is good. Here my method is I need to get the object, fine, and I can mention the parameters here. Parameters will be my bucket name. My bucket name will be this one, test nm above. This is my bucket name. Okay. Now I need to mention the key. Key is the file name, and the key will be image name. So this is my key. Now we can set the expires in, how much time this is going to expire. This will be 360, so I can set to 360. Okay. So we have our URL will be there, so we are good. Now instead of sn.dump, I am just removing that. I can pass the URL as output. Okay. So let me quickly go over this. So we will be initializing the two clients. One is for the Bedrock and one is for the S3 bucket. This is very simple. So we will be getting what we call the prompt from the query parameters. Once we have the prompt, we will be calling the what we call the client Bedrock. So from that we will be doing some conversions, and we will be finally getting the final image. This final image will be pushed to the S3 bucket. Then we will be creating the signed URL. Okay. So once we have signed URL, so we will be sending that to the client side. So we are done with our coding. Okay. Now let me push this. Sorry, something went wrong. Okay. Yes, 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 yes. Okay. So here there will be some errors when we try to execute this. Okay. So we will resolve those. Okay. Okay, now the pushing that into the S3 bucket, sorry, pushing to the AWS Lambda. This in progress. Now we can go to that console. Here I can search for Lambda. So this is my Lambda. Let me check this. Okay, so we are successfully pushed the latest changes. Okay, now here we need to check few things. Okay, first let me make the screen little big. Okay, so this is going to our API. So let me copy this API. Let me open this. So we are getting internal server error. Now we can see how can we solve these errors. Okay. So for that, first we need to know what is the error, right? For that, we can just go to our Lambda functions. Here we have a monitor. Just click on this view CloudWatch logs. Just scroll down. So here we will able to see all the errors, I mean all the logs. Okay, so here we can see a unhandled exception here. Let me expand this. What it says, it says unhandled exception. The most likely cause of this issue is a function code. However, rare cases Lambda functions. It's something. It says runtime version is instead log entry. Here we have a function. Okay, so here it says prompt. Okay, so we have not given any prompt and we didn't handle that in the code also. Okay, so what we can do, so ideally we should handle the errors. Okay, here I can say that a running horse. Okay, again we are getting an error, so we can see what is the error this time. Just go to the CloudWatch again. So this is how we debug the things. Okay, just go to this. Let me take it to 1 minute. Here I can see the error invoke model. Okay, so it is says that Bedrock object has no attribute invoke model. Okay, so there is no attribute called invoke model. Okay, that is also a mistake from my side. So this should be invoke underscore model. Okay, sometimes happens. Okay, let me push it again. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. So once this is done, we can again try this. I believe a couple of errors I am expecting. Okay, just push it. This is the one cool thing about AWS, Visual Studio Code integrated with AWS CLI. We can just do some changes and we will able to easily push that. Otherwise, we have to make the zip file, then we need to push everything to console. So that is little difficult. Fine. So we can try it again. Sorry, let me refresh it. So again getting a error. So let me see what is the error. Maybe let me go there. Last 1 minute. Here we can see a unhandled exception. Okay, here we are getting a access denial exception because we have not given any permission to access the AWS Bedrock and also S3 bucket. Okay, so for that we need to give those permission to the specific role. So here we can see the user role, that the user that we have created is this particular function, this role. So let me copy this, and for that I can go to the IAM. Okay. Click on the roles. Let me search for this role. Okay, this is the role. Let me click on this. Here we can see we are missing the permissions. Okay, so let me attach the policies. One is Bedrock policy. I'm going to give Bedrock full access. Now S3 bucket, going to the Amazon S3 full access. Okay, add permissions. Okay, so we have these two permissions is added. Now let me try again. I believe this time this should work. No. Okay, we can check the error. Okay, please be patient. Okay, I believe that it's a timeout error. let me check for this. Okay, see this error, it's a timeout error. By default, the lambda is like 3 second, its life cycle span is like a 3 seconds. Okay, so here in our case, it is taking some time, more than 3 seconds to execute all those things. First, like we need to generate the image, then we need to push that into the S3 bucket. So all those things will be taking time. So what we can do, we can go to the template.yaml file. Okay, here we can see the timeout second. Okay, so I'm going to make it 60. Okay, now let me push that again. Okay, so this is pushing there, and in between, like I want to show you one more thing. Okay, so here we can go to the API gateway. So this is our API gateway. Okay, so this is the API gateway. You can see our program is already created a API gateway for us. Okay, so if you go to there, the production, if you click on the production, okay, we can see a invoke URL is already created for us. So that is the advantage of using this kind of a structure, I mean Visual Studio Code with AWS CLI. Okay, we don't need to create that manually. Okay, again it is pushing. So once that is done, we can try. I believe 60 seconds will be enough. Done. Okay, I'm executing this one. You can see, I believe this time this will work. Oh no. Let me see this. What is the error? Here also chase generated precision got an unexpected keyword params. Okay, so let me check this. Okay, so we are good with here, and it says params. I think this P should be capital. So let me verify it again. It will be get object peer params bucket and key. Okay, so let me deploy it again. Okay, I can directly go and update here also, but I don't want to do that. Okay, so I can here we can see the code. Here we can see the code. We can directly go and update that, right? This is the code. Here I can come and directly update it, but I don't want to do that. Okay, I will show how can we create a new Lambda function without Visual Studio Code. This is actually very important. This is very important that we need to see like how can we identify those bugs or those errors and how can we fix these things. Okay. We are done, and is executing this one. We'll see. Oh God, now it's working. Okay, good. Okay, so this is our URL. Now let me copy this one. So let me paste it here. Okay, let me download this one. Okay, let me click on this one. See, we are getting the image. Okay, and so we are good. So we understood how can we create a end-to-end project with Visual Studio Code, AWS Lambda, and AWS Bedrock. Okay, and one more thing that I want to do is the second method. Okay, second method is direct AWS console implementation, which is very simple. Okay, so for that, what we need to do, we can just go to the Lambda functions. Okay, just create a function here, just give some name. Okay, I can give a test from console, just select Python. Let me select this Python. Okay, and here we can have a new role, use existing. I can give the existing role. Existing roles will be I can give the same role, or you can create a new one. Okay, I can give this role. Let me search for it. So I have given the existing role and just click on the Lambda functions. So the Lambda function is created for us. Now we can just do a test run. This will be a test function. I know I'm going little fast, but if you have any questions, just mention in the comment box. I can explain it. Okay. So here it is working fine. Now what we can do, you can write all this code in app.py. Okay, and for the time being, let me copy and paste here to save some time. Okay, now I can deploy it. So deployment is done. We are good. Maybe I can test this also. Testing is in progress, and it says the prompt is missing. That is fine. Okay. So once the AWS Lambda is done, we can go and create a API gateway for this one. For that, just type it on API gateway. Go to API gateway. And click on create API and go back to REST API. Here I can write my Gen AI API. Okay, so I am going to create a new API. Just click on the create API. Can create a source, name is image, create a source. Okay, so once that is done, I can create a method. Click on the create method. Here I can connect with my Lambda functions. So for that, we can create the Lambda functions. My Lambda function name is image generation, right? So this is my Lambda function. Now click on the create method. Okay, method type is get. Create method. So this API gateway will be connected with our Lambda functions. Okay. Now just click on the deploy API. I am going to deploy into stage name is prod. I can deploy this. So in the prod we can see a get function. This is my get function. Just copy this get function and paste it here. Here I can give a prompt. I can say that running cat. Type request ID stack to app.py. Okay, prompt. We have not given the proper prompt. Okay, something went wrong here. Running cat. Okay, it says var task app.py AWS prompt content type. This is the prompt, and this is the prompt that I have given. Okay, let me check this one. Here also I have given the same prompt. Let me check the AWS Lambda function. Let me check the Lambda function here. Maybe we will stop it here, and maybe we can figure out it in the another video. So let me see. Image generation. Okay, so this is my this is not my Lambda function. The Lambda function that we have created is the test from console. Okay, so we have to bind it with the test from console. Okay, so let me correct this one. My Gen API. Let me delete this. I can add a method. Here I can create the get method. Here I can mention test from console. Going to create this. I can deploy it. I can deploy it to prod, deploy. Here let me click on this one, get, and here I can give, see this is working. Okay, still I am getting an error. Okay, anyway we will figure out this. I will figure out this, and I will put that in the details in the comment box. Okay, so ideally what I have said is, I have mentioned is like we can create a API as simple as that, like this. Okay, so we can just copy and we can create a Lambda functions that can be connected with the API gateway. I know we are getting some error, but we will figure out it. Okay, so I don't want to extend this video. So let me go back to the PowerPoint. So this is my PowerPoint. So we have explained about with two methods. One is with the Visual Studio CLI, Visual Studio Code, and with AWS CLI, and another one is AWS console implementation. Okay, so let me check. Okay, so that is all about in this video. I know it's little lengthy video. I believe it's a useful video. You guys can try it out, but this is little costly. So when we do some kind of a API calls, like it will be charged little bit more than the other Gen AI model. Stability AI is little costly. Okay, so yeah, that's it. Bye bye.